Can your motherly instinct cause you to take control and be invested in your physical or emotional health? For my friend, Tracy Slepcevic, the answer is unequivocally yes. She became entrenched in the population that the CDC says happens to 1 and 36 children in America who have been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. This according from estimates from the CDC's Autism and Developmental Disabilities Monitoring. Furthermore, ASD is reported to occur in all ethnic, racial, and socioeconomic groups. It's also 4 times more common in boys rather than girls. And finally, the organization reports approximately 1 in 6 children, or 17% of the population of children between the ages of 3 and 17, were diagnosed with a developmental disability, as reported by their parents according to the CDC during the study period between 2009 to 17. These included autism, attention deficit, hyperactivity, disorder, blindness, and cerebral palsy, among others. And for Slepcevic, in her 20s, she became more aware of what she was putting in her body. She started to study basic nutrition, changing her eating habits, and became a personal trainer. It wasn't until her son was diagnosed with autism more than 15 years ago that she became more educated about nutrition and how it affects the body and the brain. She was on a journey to heal her child through integrative nutrition and biomedical approaches to medicine. Today, she's a certified integrative health coach, author, speaker, and mom. She's an Air Force veteran and the best-selling author of the book, A Warrior Mom, A Mother's Journey to Healing Her Son with Autism. She's educated in the fields of complementary and alternative medicine. She's dedicated the last 14 years of her life researching various treatments and therapies for children affected by autism spectrum disorder. And she joined me this week to talk about her journey of healing, what she's learned in the field of autism and alternative medicine, and so much more. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Tracy, if you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program. And I'm super excited to learn how you help people understand what they put in their bodies and your journey with your son with autism. Great to see you, and thanks so very much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're most welcome, my friend, and I know you're the best-selling author of the book Warrior Mom, your journey with healing, raising your son with autism, and you're a certified intuitive health coach, my friend. So I'm wondering if you can tell me what makes you so fabulous and why you love what you do.
Well, I do it to be in service to others because I remember what it was like when my son was diagnosed with autism. I felt a little lost and a little bit alone. So I didn't want parents to feel alone, and I didn't want them to have to navigate through the system and try and figure it out themselves. So my book isn't just my story of hope and inspiration, but also a little bit of a guidebook for parents who don't know what to do next. And then in part three is all about, various different treatment and therapy options for kids. And so I really wanted to give back to the community. I also run a conference, Autism Health Summit, and Autism Health is now a 501c3. We help provide scholarships for parents who and caregivers who can't afford to attend conferences or webinars, so they can get that free through us. And so it's been a great journey. It's been an absolute blessing. Noah is doing really well. He is 19. Of course, he is a teenager and he knows everything. So, but he's doing really well. He works full time. He goes to the gym. He takes care of himself. He goes to school. He travels, and he's very independent, which was the number one thing that I wanted for my son, was for him to be able to function independently.
Yeah, absolutely. Tracy, I live my life through the saying that inclusion is the gateway to independence. And as I'm sure you know, my friend, we just finished National Disability Employment Awareness Month in October, and it's great to hear that Noah's working and thriving, my friend. So how important do you think it is that we celebrate and provide more opportunities for folks with disabilities to contribute to the workforce? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
I think it's super important. So Noah, the one thing he does have is like some sensory issues. He can get overstimulated. If, his first job, I think he walked out after the first day and he was crying and he's like, I can't handle the pressure. He was a dishwasher, but everything was kind of being thrown at him. There were noises everywhere. So now he drives for Uber and he likes to drive. So it's easy for him. He can clock in when he wants. He can clock out when he wants. He doesn't have to worry about being overstimulated in crowds. But I think it's important for them to have those services provided for them to have the opportunity to find a job. So there are organizations out there that work with, I know here in California, they work with the regional center to provide free services for adults to assist them in finding jobs in the workplace that are suitable, depending on their disability and their needs, which I feel is super important. But I love how, like when I go to the grocery store, especially when I go to Sprouts, I see a lot of individuals on the spectrum and those with disabilities, we're in the working environment versus, when I grew up like in the 70s and 80s, it was probably non-existent. They'd probably have to stay home. It wasn't as easy for them to ever find a job. Back then they were called mentally retarded. Most of these individuals are incredibly smart. So there's nothing retarded about them. And I feel those services are really, really important. But parents need to know how to tap into those services and how to navigate the system, which was a huge, reason for me to write the book and have the conference.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, Tracy, I'm curious to ask you also, how important is it for parents who have kids with disabilities to be their advocate? How important do you think it is that they really be invested? What are your thoughts there?
Oh my gosh, it's a full-time job, and no one is going to advocate for your child like, the parent. So I've been Noah's biggest advocate from day one to keep him healthy, to keep him safe. I mean, Noah, when he was little, he used to elope, and the after school care lost my kid and didn't think it was that important and didn't even call me to tell me, but yet had every known adult looking for my son and just chose not to tell me. And I happened to find out by, just talking to one of the workers. The school lost my son. He eloped from the school, and that was because I asked several times for them to not take away his one-on-one aid to pass out her paperwork and do classroom stuff, because that's what volunteers are for. So it was always a battle, always a battle. The hardest thing I found was dealing with ignorance. The whispers and the pointing from other parents or people in general, because my kid didn't act like every other kid. He didn't fit inside their perfect box. So it was very hurtful. And today it's a lot different. Autism is 1 in 36, so it's pretty up there. When I found out in 2008, it was a lot different. And even before then, parents who dealt with it before. So I a little bit alone. I felt like Noah and I were like outcasts in a way. And that was the number one thing I wanted. I wanted parents to know that they're not alone, that there are other parents out there, there are resources, there are communities, which is why I created the conference, because everything was going to virtual online. And I feel parents need to network with other parents in person and face to face and feel their energy and learn as much as they can. And so it's the number one thing we have to do is advocate for our children.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tracy, I know that you spent some time in the Air Force, so thank you for your service, my friend. And I'm curious to ask you, how do you think your time in the Air Force taught you about resilience, and how did it help you raise your son with a disability? What are your thoughts there?
I definitely learned a lot of strength and independence and, perseverance in the military and patience. Because you can't fire back. Somebody fires at you, you can't fire back at them because, like a supervisor or somebody above you. So you have to be patient. You have to, control your emotions, which is super important as a parent, especially as a mom. We're like mama bears, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
lionesses. We want to protect our children. And if anybody hurts our child, then we want to rip their eyes out. Um, so we go from super nice to super not so nice very quickly. But I learned to, control that, um, those emotions being in the military. I had probably like one of the worst supervisors that I could have ever had, who treated me very badly. But my mom always said, kill them with kindness. And then I have a great appreciation for love of country, and especially my veterans, those who have served in wars, those who have, sacrificed their lives and lost limbs and are going through mental health issues. That's super, super important to me. And I've always had a respect for my country, but, serving in the military, and like when I go to the VA medical center for anything, and I see my older veterans with their hats on, and I thank them all the time because I have such gratitude for what they've done and sacrificed.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tracy, I know you went through a journey in your 20s where you really started watching what you put in your body and caring about essential nutrition, and you really changed your mindset behind your personal your personal habits, and you became a personal trainer. So tell me about becoming a certified health coach and that journey, my friend.
Well, initially it started with, taking care of my own self. So when I grew up, if it came in a package, a box, a can, I probably ate it. So I had to learn a different way of eating and taking care of myself and nutrition. I was always active as a kid. In my day, we didn't sit in front of TVs. We didn't play video games. We didn't have cell phones. So none of that existed. And, we were out being active. We were hanging out with friends, doing sports, whatever. So I've always, been very active, even, throughout my 20s. So I struggled with a lot of health issues. Um, and the only way I knew I could address those was, addressing the gut. So I read many books. I studied a lot. I was a personal trainer for a very short time when I was younger. And then, really, when Noah was diagnosed with autism, and my naturopathic doctor, who is a dear friend of mine, he told me that kids were making great strides with biomedical intervention. And I didn't know what biomedical intervention was, but I was quickly going to find out. So I sucked the tears back up into my eyes and I went back home and I got to work and I started studying everything I possibly could. All the books related to autism and health, healing autism. How can I, heal my son's body so he can get to a functioning state? Not trying to change him or cure him in any way, but to really just make him as healthy as possible because I wasn't raised this way. But what I found was that when I started, feeding him a anti-inflammatory meal approach, and I did it too alongside him, no sugar, no gluten, no dairy, no soy, all those processed foods, and just started eating real food, I started feeling better myself. So I said, there's something to this. And then Noah started to talk. So Noah was nonverbal, or non-speaking. He could not speak at all. And he would just kick and scream and fuss and, to try and communicate. And I felt so bad for him. But as soon as I started cleaning out the gut and, because he was on a lot of antibiotics as a kid, and antibiotics cause a lot of gut issues. Um, so when I started to heal the gut, because the gut is connected to the brain via the nervous system, then Noah started to speak some more, get a little more communication. It was like he was, less foggy brain. But in regards to being able to communicate, it really helped with communication.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tracy, I know that you've spent nearly 15 years doing this work, and you've worked with renowned scientists and doctors, and you're really on a mission to help parents and kids live a healthier lifestyle, my friend. So I'm curious about your definition of forming positive relationships, and what do you think is the number one thing you've learned about living a healthy lifestyle, working with all of these experts? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Well, I went to school for alternative medicine, but I did not become a doctor. So I have a great appreciation for, this wonderful community of scientists and doctors and those that have far more knowledge than I do. I didn't have time to get my doctorates. I had a son to take care of, and I'm okay with that. Um, and but to be able to reach out to them and or to just listen to them. I mean, I learned so much from going to conferences or listening to seminars or so It's been a great blessing and honor to work with some of the best doctors and scientists in the field of functional and alternative medicine because I'm not a doctor. I went to school for alternative medicine, but I don't know what they know. And sometimes I have parents that reach out to me and I don't have answers to their questions. So I'm able to quickly text a doctor or ask him these simple questions, or invite them to speak at my conference, or do webinars, for parents as to where, they can learn this information. But I know personally, I've learned a lot of my information from books, from conferences, from podcasts, from all kinds of things. But having this um, network of doctors that I've worked with has been a great blessing, and a blessing to all the parents that I'm in service to.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tracy, for you personally, I'm curious, how did you embrace the concept of living a healthy lifestyle, and how do you think people can do the same with not a lot of effort? What are your thoughts there?
So there's so many different things. It's like I don't even know where to begin. One is you are what you eat. So if you can pick it, pluck it, grow it, skin it, you can eat it. It's, if God put it on this earth, it's meant for your body. Stay away from packaged, processed foods, dyes, colors, you name it. So in this country, and it's very sad, we there's like over 2,500 different um, toxins and preservatives and byproducts that are outlawed and banned in 30 different countries. So a box of Fruit Loops here is toxic and poisonous, but if I go to Europe, it's got, natural flavors from fruit and real sugar and not high fructose corn syrup. So all those different things, but also to watch your environmental toxins. So I always say you can have a genetic predisposition for anything, for autism, for cancer, for anything, but some sort of environmental factor can trigger that and bring it about or make it worse. So be careful of the toxins in your environment. Anything that gives off VOCs, volatile organic compounds, if it smells really nice, most likely it's not good for you. So scented candles, air fresheners, the smell of paint, furniture and carpet off gases. You can get zero VOC paint or carpet. You can buy a leather sofa. That nice new car smell is not very good for you, so you should open the windows. Um, and cooking on Teflon. Teflon's banned in other countries with socialized medicine. So to really watch what you cook on, either just straight stainless steel or titanium or whatever, but whatever you're cooking on is actually those heavy metals are going into your food as well. Buying organic pesticides. Glyphosate is like running rampant and it's causing a lot of health problems, including cancer. So really, if you go to ewg.org, you can see what the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 list is. So the Dirty Dozen, you want to make sure you always buy organic. Most of them are root vegetables and fruits. And the Clean 15, you don't have to buy organic. And anything in between, I would recommend to buy organic. But we really have to, or just grow your own garden. I grow my own garden. I have fruit trees. If there's a place where I can plant something and eat real food, I do. Get out, get exercise, fresh air, sunlight. We need real sunlight. And that doesn't mean lather yourself with sunscreen. Don't stay out to a point of burning yourself over and over. But we need, vitamin D. We need supplementation because we don't have the nutrients in our soil that we used to, back in the day. So all these different things that that you can do to clean up your environment to try and avoid those environmental toxins is
Yeah,
important.
yeah, absolutely. And Tracy, just as your self as a woman and raising a kid with a disability, I'm curious, what keeps you the most hopeful, and how do you define sort of the concept of being hopeful? What are your thoughts there?
You know, I look at Noah as a blessing. He gave me purpose. He made me the strong warrior mom I am today. So, really, I always say when you live in gratitude and you count your blessings and you look at the bigger picture, life can look a whole lot different. So, I never looked at Noah like, oh no, my kid has autism. But how can I make his life better? And we can do that for our children. We can do that for others. So when Noah got to a functioning state, that was when I decided to write my book. And I said, well, what can I do for others? How can I be in service to others? Because, being in service to others is one of the most important things in life. And it comes back tenfold. It really does.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that larger point, Tracy, I'm curious to ask you how we continue to advocate to make sure that individuals with disabilities are fully sort of integrated in society, not only from an employment standpoint, like I asked you earlier, but from a societal standpoint, too. What's the key to giving folks with disabilities a sense of dignity and purpose in your view?
I think the number one thing to do is to educate people. Even if it's the person whispering at the playground, I was on a plane one time and there was a little girl sitting in front of me with her mother, and she literally was tantruming the whole time. And my heart went out to her because I'd been there before, and you could tell something was wrong. Maybe sensory disorder, or maybe she was on the spectrum. And the lady next to me was like, wow, some people should just leave their children at home. And I said, you know what? I said, some people maybe just have to travel with their children, and maybe that child has a disability or a sensory issue or autism or something that makes it very hard for them. And I can see that the mother isn't purposely trying to make you miserable, and imagine how she feels. And the woman, it could have went one way or the other, but the woman looked back at me and she said, you know what? She said, that is completely insensitive of me, and you're absolutely right. So educating people is the number one thing. And when you have a child with autism, you have to advocate from day one and until your dying day. Like, I will always be my son's advocate, even though he's a teenager that knows it all or thinks he knows it all. I will always advocate and educate him to the best of my ability. That is my job. It is my job to protect him, to love him, to nurture him. But number one, to love him. Um, you know, these kids always need, they're going to go through their trials and tribulations. Noah was kind of shunned when it came to sports and other things, and I went to bat for him. And when it came to school, I had to make sure that the school was on top of his services and what he needed to be successful. So it never stops. It's an ongoing, I won't really say battle, because really I feel like what some people might consider a battle has definitely made me stronger. And I count my blessings because I see so many parents out there whose children are adults and they're still non-speaking and they can't function, and it's really hard. And I know deep down that these individuals, they just want to communicate with you. And we're finding ways to do that. Dawn Marie Gavin with Spellers has come up with a great way to work with their motor skills and do spelling to communicate, to be able to learn how to communicate off a letterboard. But there's so much. And I always say, don't give up. Don't give up or lose hope on your child. And always, always, always just be there for them and love them regardless. I don't always love Noah's decisions as a teenager, but regardless, I love him and I'm here for him, and he's gonna do what he's gonna do, and I'm always gonna be there for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, Tracy, I'll share just a little bit about myself. So, Tracy, I was born with what's called spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy. Simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my legs to walk normally. And I actually found out at the age of 9 that I wouldn't be able to walk for the duration of my life without assistance because of the severity of my cerebral palsy. And the changing point of my life, Tracy, came the day after I had completed and got discharged from the hospital after my 7th and final surgery. I had to go back to school the next day, and I was called down to the principal's office, Tracy, because Dr. Carol Crewley, who was my middle school principal, knew why I was headed to London the previous day, and she had everyone associated to my file, and you can appreciate this, from teachers to social workers, and my parents were there, and I went through the story of what the doctor had told myself and my parents the previous day, and Dr. Crewley looked at me and she said to me, the only limitations in life are the artificial ones that you place on yourself personally, and ever since then, I've lived my life through the motto that everyone's portrait of success is different. So when you talk to mothers who have kids with disabilities or parents in general, or look at Noah's personal story, how do you want parents to help their kids paint the portrait of success? And what do you look at as Noah's portrait of success as well? What are your thoughts there?
So I'm a very spiritual person. And what I know to be true in my heart is that we are all spiritual beings having a temporary human experience. And we're all here to have a different experience. And no matter what that experience is, we're all on our own beautiful journey, no matter what that journey is. And my journey was to be Noah's mom, an advocate, and to be the advocate for so many other parents and loved ones. But if people can look at it from those eyes, that this amazing individual is just on their own perfect journey, right? And we're all God's children. And in life we have a choice. We can choose to be, well, woe is me, it's not working out the way I want it to. Or we can take those challenges and we can use them as tools to learn and grow, and to be able to help or assist others, because look at what you're doing. You're still educating and inspiring. And if you can inspire another individual with maybe the same disability that you have, or the doctor who inspired you, which I always said, there are those, especially teachers or facilitators or coaches, can make or break these children. I mean, my words to you or your words will inspire, or they can cut like a knife. And Noah's had some amazing teachers and coaches in his life, but he's had some bad ones too. So to be that person in another person's life or many people's lives, to inspire them to go the distance, to to give them, hope is one of the greatest gifts you can bestow upon anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as a mother of a kid with a disability and your own personal story of resilience and sort of overcoming the stories or experiences in your own life, I'm curious to ask you, what keeps your internal fire lit when you have to overcome adversity? What are your thoughts there?
You know what? From the time I was little, I've always thought to myself, there is somebody out in this world that has it much tougher than I do, or they're much worse off and they have more challenges. So it's always put me in a space of gratitude. And I feel when you live from a space of gratitude, that life from your own eyes can just look so much differently. So we can choose to look at it like it's the worst thing in the world, or we can choose to look at it from a different and loving space. I'm grateful for Noah. Would I change anything? Absolutely not. I wouldn't, because if I didn't have him and I didn't go on that journey, I think to myself, like, I I find it hard to believe what I've accomplished my own self, with Noah. And but to be able to write a book and assist so many other parents all over the world, um, and to me is a blessing. So when you're in a space of giving and giving yourself, and you can look at it through loving eyes, or because we're all God's children, and our journeys are all different.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tracy, I've got two questions left for you. And the first of the two questions is this. I'm curious if you can pull back the curtain when you have conversations with parents and engage with them about their child's future if they have disabilities. I'm curious, what are parents telling you about their greatest hopes, fears, and everything in between? What would be your thoughts there, my friend?
So a lot of times, if they've read my book, they're like, you've given me hope that my child can function one day, that my child can get to where Noah is. And I do let them know firsthand, the number one thing is to believe it, because the universe is very powerful, and if you believe it, you can manifest anything, no matter how that journey gets to look. um, but the fact that they come to me and they say that I've inspired them, I say every child's journey is different. Every child responds to different treatments and therapies and diets and whatever. They all respond differently. Not all of them are able to get to a functioning state like Noah, but look at the journey. And no matter what, everything that I promote is from a space of good health, starting from within. And there are no contraindications for that. There's nothing bad about taking processed foods out and sugars, and eating real food, taking supplements, getting rid of toxins in your environment. That can benefit anybody, not just a child with autism. It can benefit anyone. So my book isn't just for the parent seeking answers if their child has autism, but it's a story of hope and inspiration, and even maybe their own healing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Trisha, my final question has to do with legacy and how you want your personal and professional legacy to be defined, my friend. What are your thoughts there?
you know the fact that I have an opportunity to speak to others and share my message with other parents, and be there for them, because I didn't have that when I was going through that with Noah. And then for Noah to always know that you know, his mom was one of giving back, and, you know, that I always do my best to come from a space of love and understanding. And so, you know, that's a legacy that I leave with my children, and that you can always make a difference in the life of anybody, not just a child. Children are so vulnerable, and when you say it, and their minds are like sponges, right? They're operating mostly from a subconscious space. So when a teacher says those words to you, or like your principal did you, they stick, you know, and it's you can make a difference. You can change a life just by what you say. So that's, you know, the legacy that I would like to leave, and then to leave parents with, no matter what, it is our job to just love them, and that's our number one job.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tracy, finally, tell me if people want to get connected with you personally or buy the book. What's the best way they can do that?
So they can buy my book wherever books are sold. So Warrior Mom, A Mother's Journey in Healing Her Son with Autism. They can go to warriormom.com, or they can email me at Tracy, Tracy, at warriormom.org. .org is my email. But my books can be bought on Amazon. They can be bought in Barnes and Nobles. They can, you know, wherever books are sold.
Mhm.
Definitely online. I think just in various Barnes and Noble stores they're at. If they want to order a hardcover copy, then they have to order it through my website. So I send them a hardcover copy. Um, Autism Health Summit, if you go to autismhealth.com, and then you can click on the conference tab, you can register to go to the conference. If you use the discount code AHS for Autism Health Summit 2025, so AHS 2025, then you can receive $25 off a ticket. It is a 3-day conference, actually 2.5 days, and full of information. Food is fully provided. It'll be in San Diego, April 11th, 12th, and half day on the 13th. And but again, you can go to autismhealth.com. And if you feel it in your heart to give back to others, I highly recommend that you go to autismhealth.com. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Any donation is helpful to a parent or a caregiver, or, you know, for those educational scholarships. And there's nobody through this organization that gets paid. No one gets a salary. All the money goes towards scholarships and to help the organization. But, you know, every little bit helps, and you can also go through there to donate.
Absolutely. Well, as I said, Tracy, at the beginning of our outset of our conversation, I think you're doing great work in terms of advocating for the inclusive future of folks with disabilities. And Noah's lucky to have you as a mom, and I want to thank you for joining me today to engage in conversation. It's most appreciated.
Well, thank you. It's been a blessing to talk to you as well.